Hello, welcome to Unit 10. Today I'm going to be going over some app design basics, just talking a little bit about general app design, what we should be aware of as broad changes in the app design market, what kind of things we should be looking at developing for, and what the big changes are in the field. And then I will also be getting into several uh, tutorials on Xamarin. This particular one you're looking at right here is the "Hello, my name is" tutorial that I just created, and I'll also be looking at a field service app and a task tracking app today. Specifically, what we're going to look at is a presentation made in early 2012 by Matrix Partners venture capitalists. As you know, there are quite a few changes going on in the app marketplace right now, and we want to kind of summarize what those changes are. So basically, the broad macro level changes that have gone on in the last several years, it's really kind of an exciting time for app development, to be in app development, because there's been some massive things going on in the mobile space as well as the social space. So right now, Facebook and Twitter, for example, are so intertwined with applications. I mean, it's not even funny. Everything you do really asks for a tie-in to Facebook or a tie-in to Twitter, so you can quickly get account data. Some people don't really like that because it makes you have a Facebook account, for example, if you want to use certain applications. However, there is a great power in that, because it means that we don't have to create accounts for every single app we want to use. Instead, we can just piggyback on the Facebook. As developers, we can just piggyback on the Facebook login information and use that. This also means that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of these various social outlets, all the various blogs, Tumblr, and all those kinds of things, have basically become extremely successful just through the power of the fact that more devices are using them. And that's a very powerful thing for these social media sites. The cloud has also become extremely important, as well as platforms as a service, and so we'll look at that, the PaaS or the PaaS model. And big data is a huge thing these days, with analytics companies being sort of the king of that area. The consumerization of IT is another thing that we'll look at. So basically, the IT field as itself has gone through some major changes. HTML5 is a huge change that just came about in the last couple of years. HTML5 allows for slick development of mobile apps, not in native, but instead in HTML5, and we'll talk about the difference between native and HTML5 a little bit here today as well. Also, component reuse is a big thing in app development, so we can reuse components. We actually are doing some of that with Xamarin. Speaking of Xamarin, there's a tie-in there with the open source movement, because Xamarin did start out of the open source movement, even though it is now not open source. There's also some security challenges that come with the new approaches, and we'll talk about those a little bit today, as well as talking a little bit about development methodologies, also known as Agile Scrum. So we're at the post-PC era, a lot of people are calling it. As I said, this presentation was made in early 2012, so they didn't have full data yet on 2011, and they were just projecting this, but these did end up being true. And 2013 now, we saw basically the smartphone number of smartphones shipped has far surpassed the number of desktop computers that have been shipped, and notebook PCs as well. So, and tablets are ever gaining. As you can see, they're gaining here and here and here, with desktop PCs basically staying level, whereas the notebooks are ever increasing. Smartphones are ever increasing as well. So we're seeing more and more of a push towards mobile. The inflection point on this was Q4 of 2010, when we basically had the smartphones plus the tablets being greater than the total number of PCs. So here we have the number of tablets sold, the number of smartphones sold, and that's surpassed in 2010. And every year since then, it's surpassed. So that's why we're calling it the post-PC era. You might argue that you will always be a PC person or a Mac person. That's just your own personal preference, and you're allowed to that, of course. And as hardcore gamers, most of us are that way. However, that the facts are that this is the post-PC era as of the last couple of years, and right now the general populace is using smartphones, and a lot of them are abandoning their PCs for general purpose stuff like checking email, even browsing the web, that kind of thing, and they are going ever more frequently towards smartphones and tablets. So making web apps, or not making web apps, making apps in general is a very smart business to be in. The mobile internet right now is about 10 times bigger than the desktop internet in terms of numbers of units of growth drivers that we've tracked from ever since it first started, the mainframe era of 1960 to now, and out to 2020. So we have about 1 billion units, and in kind of early 2000s was on desktop, and then on mobile internet now we've got about 10 billion plus actual mobile internet devices and units being used. That's what's been projected for this, and I think that the PC installed base reached 100 million in 93. Cell phone internet users reached 1 billion in 2005, and then we're going to see that approaching 10 billion now. If I do a quick search on that, as I said, that article that I'm using is a little bit dated, but here's one from not that long ago, October of this last year, that basically is projecting 75 billion devices to be connected to the Internet of Things, and this is a new buzzword, the Internet of Things. That's projected by 2014, and basically now, at this current point in time, there are 8.7 billion connected as of 2012, and that has just surpassed 10 billion. So, in fact, the article, even though it's a year or two old, ended up being absolutely accurate, and so there's no reason to think that we won't be at about 50 billion by 2020. And one thing, too, is that this is just an article talking about devices connected to the Internet of Things. There's buzzwords that come out on a daily basis. You got to kind of, if you're going to be in this field, you got to kind of get used to that. The current buzzword is Internet of Things. That's something that didn't even exist back when this was made in early 2012. That's kind of a term that just came up in the last year or so. Back then we called it, way back then, a year or two ago, that's a long time for this industry. And back then we called that the mobile internet. So now it is the Internet of Things. Everything is connected to the internet. That's really what the Internet of Things means. You've got watches on the internet. You've got, radios on the net, obviously. Like Sirius and XM radio and stuff like that, and refrigerators on the internet, and everything is literally on the internet. Your home security system, your lights, your garage door openers. I mean, everything can be on the internet in theory, and a lot of people do have all that stuff on the internet. It's becoming more and more prevalent. So, mobile internet is roughly now 10 times bigger than the desktop internet. So again, it's something that can't be avoided. The change in mobile computing is also very significant. It's something that's always with you. It's always on. It's always connected. The thing about that is that means that on the social scene, you can leverage Facebook and Twitter to your advantage. You can push notification updates to the phone, and users will get those right away. That will cause them to check their status more frequently. It will cause them to play games more frequently that do those push notifications. It'll cause them to use apps more frequently, such as Instagram. Since it's always on, we have to gear our software that we make towards that principle. So, for example, notifications, updates, that kind of thing, needs to be designed in when you're creating your design for your new app. Also, the locality of the apps is something that we can be guaranteed as well with new GPS-based services. When I say new, and they're not really that new, obviously, but the ever-increasing integration of GPS on smartphones is becoming better and better, more and more stable, and more accurate. So that's something that we can create amazing new apps for, apps that basically when you go into a certain area, it automatically turns on your lights or something, or apps that can kind of help you track where your phone is, apps that, direct you to your destination, apps that find all the nearest locations of, seafood restaurant within X distance, etc. I mean, those are just a few simple examples. There's even one example of a company that got very successful off of GPS down in Madison, Wisconsin. One of our few success stories here in Wisconsin. Well, now I shouldn't say too few, because we do have claim to the fact that ID Software was here originally back when Doom was being created in the early days, before they decided it was too cold here and moved to Texas. But all of that aside, there are only a handful of companies that have truly become successful in this field here. One of them is Purblue. Purblue is down in Madison, and they made something called Parallel Kingdom, which uses GPS as an adventure game-based thing, and they sold about 2 million units. Basically, the idea of that game is that there's hidden treasures and encounters that you can have throughout the city, throughout the real city, that is, and you go to those locations, and that unlocks the treasures. So anyway, kind of a tangent there, but these new device capabilities have meant for newer things, like touch interaction with the devices, cameras, and voice input, accelerometer device capabilities as well. Also, your apps that you make can integrate pretty easily with key apps such as the Contacts app, which is a built-in app with Android and iOS devices, of course, the Maps app, the phone apps, the text messaging apps, and all of that kind of stuff. So we can have the app you make can send text messages. The app you make can make appointments for you. It can update your contacts if it just scanned and saw that you just got a new phone number from someone in your email app that you're making. It can ask you, do you want to add that to your contacts list, for example. The task calendar that we're making, for example, could take those tasks and put them in the actual calendar. We could actually do that within Xamarin Studio. We probably won't get that far with our task app, but that's some extension that you could actually make. The cloud is also something that over the last few years has been kind of a buzzword. If you combine the mobile technologies with the cloud, you get exceptional power. Kind of borrowing from Spider-Man here. Exceptional power, that is. And basically, the cloud allows you to store anything you want on there. You don't need to have complex server setups. You don't have to worry about latency in general. The Amazon S3 server, as it's called, the simple storage solution server for Amazon, for example, that's one of their cloud servers, and that's pretty much a guaranteed always up kind of situation, and putting your data on there and having access to it is pretty simple to set up. You can store music on there, maps, photos, social, anything you want pretty much, and have access immediately to that. Other examples, when people say cloud, well, what is the cloud? The best example I have is sort of like Google Drive or Google Docs, what used to be Google Docs and now is Google Drive, where you basically have Google Drive is just absolutely amazing, by the way. I mean, the fact that I can be editing a document while someone else is watching the changes that I make real time, that allows for such great collaborative interaction between two people. It's something that we use in the industry often, and we'll continue using it. It's just a great tool. That is the cloud. The cloud is basically the idea that all apps are connected to it. You can just be guaranteed that you're going to have connectivity with that and the storage related to it. If you combine that with the idea of mobile, of this thing that's always with you and is sort of persistent with you, it's always in your pocket, you can basically know that you can have social connections immediately using the cloud, you can get those social connections and what the various connections are to that particular person, because it can all be stored on the cloud, updated on the cloud, and then if you go from your PC, say, to your mobile device, it can carry with it those social connections because they're all stored on the cloud. Um, Big data also becomes something that's extremely powerful. Big data, of course, refers to the idea of huge, massive data sets of millions of entries, for example, that have all kinds of various app data, like how many times a certain button was clicked in an app, how many times such and such ad was shown. With that comes the idea of analytics. So analytics is all about tracking your apps and seeing which apps are more popular than others. And that's really essentially what big data is all about, and it can be very powerful for app developers. So big data is something, excuse me, kind of a little glitch there. Anyway, big data is something that can be very useful for huge analytic companies. Big data can be very useful for basically predicting what kind of things users are going to like, and along with that comes basically a responsibility that you have to protect the user's data, and basically that's kind of a hot topic these days as well. Sort of an ethical related topic is how do you protect privacy data when you have when you sign up for an app, it'll ask you, does this app want access to your contacts? Does this app have access to your even potentially your bank accounts? And ethically, as software developers, we have to make sure that we follow the code of ethics that's been developed by the software engineering associations, and don't actually violate that, and basically only use big data in a way such as it can help us basically target market certain things. For example, when you log on to Google Mail, there's all those ads on the side, and it kind of uses analytics to determine which ads you're most likely to actually click on based on a lot of data that it's collected about you over time. If you can imagine for a second all the information that on a browser that you've got on your phone or on apps that you've got on your phone can kind of be over time collected. There's actually a huge amount of data that can be collected there and can be used for that kind of thing. The cloud actually also becomes a single point of storage for all your stuff, and that's very important as well. And you can use Google services, for example, for that, for save game data and all kinds of various things that are related to that. So basically, we've just so I noticed that on that slide deck we had saying here just surpassed 1 million mobile apps. I wanted to check where we're currently at. There's a mobythinking.com site that I go to. This one has updates from 2013, and currently there were 1.2 billion people worldwide using mobile apps. So the actual number is 800,000 on the two largest stores, 800,000 apiece both on the Apple App Store and Google Play. So we're probably over 2, I would say, and then there's smaller app stores as well, so I would say we're over 2 million at this point in time as far as number of mobile apps that exist. So since early 2012, this has doubled yet again, which is truly amazing. So there's been this wave of innovation where there's basically an unmet need because you've got all this power on your device, and we really haven't taken full advantage of these phones yet. So what's coming out of that is lots of new ways of entertainment, lots of new technologies. Cross-platform development has become huge, and that's what a lot of this course is about, is using Xamarin to leverage cross-platform development, because if you can get on both the iOS devices and on the Android devices, you're covering a lot of ground. I mean, you're talking about 10 billion devices that can potentially run your app versus half of that. And potentially even because there's different screen sizes, there's different types of tablets, you really truly need something that's cross-platform compatible and can handle all those different types of devices. So you want to choose a solution that allows for that. HTML5 is one such solution that basically allows you to run on anything that supports HTML5. So that basically is a solution that can work on iOS as well as Android. So HTML5 allows you to do cross-platform compatibility. You could also do a hybrid approach of native and HTML5 that then would allow you for device functionality such as the camera and GPS, because the big benefit of native apps is that you can use the device's full functionality. What we're doing is we're actually using a native app, a fully native app called Xamarin. And Xamarin is something that allows us to be able to deploy to both iOS and Android, as you know. The app stores have introduced basically a brand new distribution model to the software development industry. These have built-in billing, they have built-in app purchases. This opens a lot of new opportunities in the free and paid marketplaces. So paid meaning like microtransactions, for example. And this is something new to keep in mind as well as you're developing your apps is can you integrate microtransactions, for example? How can you incorporate maybe currencies into your apps? Maybe if they're not even games, maybe like gamification is a big topic these days. Gamification meaning how can you imbue something of a game into an app? One of my teams in my software engineering class I'm teaching over at UWGB is developing an app in which it's called the RPG, real life RPG, and basically you can exercise, and while you're exercising you earn points, and those points go to gearing up your character, and you can see your character get more powerful over time the more you exercise. That's an example of gamification, and gamification is kind of a huge topic these days. So is microtransactions, so are this whole new way of selling apps. The revenue projections for the App Store in 2015 were around 37 billion. Let's go ahead and see if that is still the case or if we reach that yet. Everything that I've found suggests that the App Store itself has sold about 10 million to date in 2014, so we could say that maybe we're on track to actually achieve this by 2015, by the end of that year, and sell over 35 billion. So we're probably right on track of where this was predicted in December of 2011/January of 2012 when this presentation was given. Cloud computing is a major revolution of epic proportions. There's three flavors of a cloud, which is basically software as a service, which is the applications as we know it. You basically just log on. There's the platform service, and then there's the infrastructure itself, like Amazon Web Services, for example. The platform is, for example, the middleware that is used to communicate with the software application layer and the infrastructure layer. Before there was a platform layer, you used to have to go from the developer through the IT department, through basically your infrastructure guys, and that would, then you'd have to do source code management, you'd have to do continuous integration, unit testing, and all the rest. Now we've eliminated the need to have IT analysts basically administering databases. We can just go straight to the portal and automatically provision our servers, automatically deploy to various places, automatically create copies for the test bases, maintain and update the software. The PaaS basically allows for you to deploy easily and update your database easily. This is something I've used over at XyQuest, one of my current employers, and it is very nice. PaaS means no IT, basically. It means no waiting. It's kind of transformed the IT industry. As such, the IT industry is kind of retooling and changing how their services models are working, becoming much more of how do we support PaaS, for example, as opposed to how do we hire a ton of web server type people and be able to use that. These people have to basically be learning new skills. They have to be learning how to be good at supporting PaaS, and so it's kind of transformed the IT industry along with it. The continuous integration for building and testing, if that does not have a continuous integration source code management, it kind of fails because everyone's trying to check it all in at once. So you end up implementing a source code management solution into your PaaS system. I just wanted to briefly mention source code before we conclude the class, obviously. Important topics here are like Perforce, for example, SourceSafe, which is now Team Foundation Server via Microsoft, is another popular one, as well as SVN, Tortoise, and of course, last but not least, Git and GitHub, which are hugely popular now, and especially in terms of their integration with the cloud. When you submit to GitHub, you're essentially using source code management that directly connects into the cloud and allows you for pretty slick integration. I can show you what GitHub is really quickly here. It's good to know this terminology too, just so you can kind of look as knowledgeable as you possibly can. So GitHub is probably the most prolific source control solution out there right now. It allows you all just quickly sign in here. So for example, I'm in GitHub right now. My logon name is actually Mechanodroid. I've got all kinds of, I'm in the Volery organization, for example, and I can see all the various, this is the Zymo website, this is the Hutera website, various different things, Speech Tales, Airborne, all kinds of different things that are part of the XyQuest GitHub site. So this, for example, has all kinds of source code. This was a chat client I was working on for Node.js a while back, and it's got all up on the cloud. It's got all the different files that I was actually working on. Really kind of a slick implementation of cloud and source control merged into one. Now, so the development team basically can basically be concerned about the development, while the operations crew is concerned with what the various configurations are of the build, and they can be concerned about how to get the setups working and how to get the various configs working. So it kind of changes fundamentally their approach. Okay, so so there's now one button press that exists in PaaS, where before it used to have to be the operations people would basically be able to figure out what your staging was, and now they become more of like consultants, I guess you could say, as opposed to the people that are actually staging it, and it goes directly from development to production, which is very slick. With this, PaaS can become the new operating system of applications development, and now we can focus on the app, not the plumbing underneath the app, so we don't have to worry about the exact configuration of the database, for example, and things like that. We can just basically have a faster time to market and be able to deploy our apps much more easily. I want to skip forward here a little bit because otherwise your videos for your required viewing for today is going to get crazy out of control, because we still have to do the tutorials for today. Components inside of app development gives a huge gain in productivity. We have in Xamarin already used a few of these, or we will be using a few of these soon. For example, we're going to be using the Google Maps service and potentially the Facebook service as well if I get to it. You can create mashups. You can create mashups like we see here with the Candlestick RV Park that's pointing down to that actual location. You can have mashups, integrating your phone app on your phone with being able to call this number directly when you press on that. That's essentially a mashup where there's a component of the Google Maps in the background plus a component of the phone. And so if you think about all the different services that you could have as an app, you can basically, everyone that offers those services for the most part is making an API that you can use, and you can use that as a plugin kind of, as a component. And this is very powerful for SaaS-based applications. You can use Dropbox, you can use Google Apps, Salesforce.com, etc. And it's very, very cool. Allows you great power in making new apps. Gamification is, of course, a huge topic, as well as social is. Many applications benefit from social features, such as Instagram with photo sharing, hiring processes, LinkedIn, whatever, stuff like that. Finding of new music, these apps that you can basically, have Pandora. You can have the apps that you play it, and it'll tell you what song it's playing that it currently hears based on the microphone coming in. Okay, brief kind of pause there. I was just talking about gamification. Let's go back to that, and the social features as well. So with the social features, you can do all kinds of things. I was mentioning the music app that just came out. Actually, plug.dj is the name it is. And as you can see, this is not an app yet. This is going to be an app very soon. They actually are kind of filling the shoes of what turntable.fm used to be, which was an app that lets you basically play music for your friends as a kind of a real-time DJ type situation. Hold on, I'm just gonna this. I actually haven't joined yet. I just heard about it, and I was a pretty avid follower of turntable.fm, and I'm really kind of bummed out that it's closed down. I'm just gonna join while you're actually watching here. You get to see me join Plug DJ. But basically you can see all kinds of various styles of music here, and you can go into these rooms, and I'm logged in with Facebook now, so it knows who I am. And for example, this is a dubstep electro techno room, and you can see basically video playing here. That's the YouTube video that's actually playing, and these are all the various people that are in the room. I can change rooms here. It's really a kind of a cool sort of, and it tells you how many people are in each room. I can guarantee you this is going to be coming out as an app soon, because this has kind of become the new popular hangout for all the people that were using Turntable FM. So these are some sort of emerging things that we're seeing coming in music apps. And of course there's other ones like, as you know, Pandora and all that kind of stuff that's kind of old hat by now. But so encouraging engagement is very popular. Giving rewards for you to do things is very popular, and that's what really gamification is all about, is giving you sort of achievements for getting certain things done. That is gamification. So in summary, there's a lot of different choices, languages, and architectures you can use. We're using Xamarin in this class to be truly cross-platform independent rather. We are also using a lot of the different features of the devices, and we're talking about security. So these are many of the modern kind of things that you choose when you're developing an app. You look at the security features of it, where you're going to be storing things, what kind of features of the phone you're going to be incorporating. These are the things you should be thinking about when you're designing your own apps. Remember that with power comes great power comes great responsibility. You are going to be making important choices. You need to meet the business needs. You need to be able to meet the time to market, the flexibility, the scalability, and reliability. And all of these things are very important for those that are essentially funding the app to be created. So that is about it for all the modern changes in professional app development. Obviously, if you're making apps on your own, some of this does not apply. In that case, you're just you still need to, of course, find a niche and find an opening. And that unfulfilled need that we talked about before, that unmet need here, there's still, even though we're surpassed 1.5 million now, this slide, again, this is from December 2011 from a talk that was actually given in early 2012, but the slides were made in late 2011. Now we're at 1.5 million, or a little bit above that even. But there's still a huge unmet need with all the functionality that these phones have, and so you could still make a hit app and get that out there, and it's just a matter of finding what that unfulfilled need is. Quite like I mentioned, my students that found the unfit need of the real life RPG that's going to be launched, that will be a way for you to track how good you're doing on working out and being able to upgrade your avatar because you've been doing really good. And the other unfulfilled need of having an open DJ room that's going to be coming out. So those are two new apps that I see coming out in the future, but there's tons of other unmet needs. I just gave some examples, and you should think of some examples as well of things that you think, oh, that's probably going to come out anytime now. If you're at that level where you're kind of thinking of those things, it's probably it might be an indication that this is a field you should get into, because that means you probably know the app landscape pretty well, and you kind of know what things are available on the App Store. With 1.5 million, it's hard to know all of them. No one person will ever know all of them, but it's really cool if you can keep track of some of the most popular ones and think about which ones still have yet to be made. So that is it for the kind of general philosophical talk about app design. Coming up next, I will be showing off, as promised, 3 tutorials. So this week we will not have any C# lectures. In fact, those are done for the rest of the course. Instead, we're going to be talking mainly about Xamarin tutorials and Xamarin specifics. The first one here is going to be at Hello, my name is, simple little app. And the next one after that is going to be a simple app for field service check-ins, checking in from the field, how many things you've done in the field, as well as the next one after that is going to be a task one. So there's 3 more videos to come. Stay tuned.